Welcome to Medicare School Daily, where we help you understand Medicare, save money, avoid mistakes, and above all else, get the most out of your Medicare benefits. Now, today's topic is actually a question, and that is, who really needs to take Medicare? As people approach 65, this is a very common question. Well, the answer is this. Some of you do need to take Medicare at 65, and some of you don't. Right? Now I'm going to address both of these today, but those of you who should take Medicare, and I'm telling you, you do need to take Medicare. If you don't, you will face penalties and lots of problems. I'm going to explain those during this video. So if you're approaching 65, you're in one of two scenarios. The first scenario is this: you're turning 65 and you're covered by an employer plan. That means that either you're working, your spouse is working, and you're covered by that employer plan. The question is, do you need to take Medicare? Well, the answer is you may not need to take Medicare if that plan is priced well. If it's a good plan, meaning good coverage, you like the cost of the plan. You may not want to take Medicare if your spouse is younger than you and is covered by the group plan, or maybe your children are covered by the group plan. It may not be in your best interest to go on Medicare at this time. However, there are sometimes people are working, covered by a group plan, but it really is not a very good plan. And so you may need to take Medicare if that group plan at work has a high deductible. Now for us, a high deductible would be anything that's about $2,000 a year to maybe $5,000 a year. We would consider that to be a high deductible. Now, if you never reach that deductible, probably not a big deal, but if that deductible is something you do reach and you do meet that deductible, there are times when going on Medicare may make sense because all this is going to be out of pocket before the plan begins to pay. The second reason would be if you have a high premium. Now, for our standards of high premium, we're saying that if you're spending $250 a month or more for your coverage at that group plan, then Medicare will be a better value than the group plan. Now, if that $250 also includes your spouse or maybe children that are on the plan, then that's still a good buy. But if it's just for you, then that's really too much. Medicare will make more sense. Or if you happen to have a group plan, but it truly is just kind of mediocre or very poor insurance, Medicare is wonderful insurance, and it may be in your best interest to take Medicare and say no to the group plan at work. Now, the second scenario would be for those of you that are turning 65 and you do not have an employer plan available, meaning you're not working, your spouse is not working. If this is you, you need to start Medicare at 65. Or if you're turning 65 and you're on a retiree plan. Now, here's the way it works. Sometimes you can keep the retiree plan when you're on Medicare, but you must enroll in a Medicare A and B so that A and B is going to be the first payer. Because what's happening is your retiree plan wants to pay second to Medicare. So once you're eligible, you have to put Medicare A and B in the first payer position, and that retiree plan will be in the second payer position. Because if you don't enroll into Medicare at 65, that retiree plan pays second, and now you will pay first. So you put yourself in a terrible financial position by not taking Medicare if you're covered by a retiree plan. And then thirdly, you could be on an ACA plan. These would be the Affordable Care Act plan. In other words, you went to the Healthcare Exchange, healthcare.gov website, and you purchase a plan through the ACA system. And so if this is you, what happens, you're turning 65, you can actually keep the ACA plan when you turn 65, but all the benefits of that goes away, meaning the tax subsidies, the cost sharing, the low premiums, all that's going to go away. And so what happens is if you're turning 65 and have an ACA plan, you'll pay full cost for those plans. They're usually very high deductible plans, so there's no reason whatsoever to keep an ACA plan once you're turning 65. You want to take Medicare. And then lastly, if you have no insurance whatsoever and you're turning 65, you certainly should be going on Medicare. And so here are the problems that will surface if you do not take Medicare at 65 when you're first eligible to do so. Number one, you need to take Medicare because if you don't, you'll be uninsured. Now, you may be healthy right now, but what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a tremendous amount of risk. If you had some kind of a serious health issue, such as cancer, or maybe some type of a surgery that you needed, then you're going to be 100% out of pocket if you go without Medicare. Medicare is such a wonderful value and the prices are wonderful. There's just really no reason to not take Medicare and be uninsured. The second reason is because enrollment into Medicare is very limited. A lot of people think that, well, I'll not take Medicare now, but when I get sick, I'll enroll into Medicare. Now, folks, you just can't come into Medicare anytime you want to. That is not true. The only way you can get into Medicare if you don't take it at 65 is they open up the enrollment every year between January and March. And so let's suppose that you have some serious health issue that comes up in April. You can enroll in April. You're going to have to wait till the following year during the first quarter to enroll into Medicare. And then certain plans, you can only enroll in those between October and December. Okay, and that's it. And so if you miss that particular deadline, then you're going to have to wait until the next year to enroll in those plans. So very limited as far as your opportunities to come into Medicare. And then thirdly, there will be penalties that will be applied. Okay, so B is your original Medicare outpatient coverage. D would be your drug plans. And so if you don't take Medicare when you're first eligible to do so, meaning you've lost the group plan, now you're approaching 65, what happens is the B penalty that is assessed is 10% penalty per year added to your Part B premium. Every year you go without, 10%. Drug plans are 1% per month added to it. So if I go without 2 years of Part B when I should have had it, I'm going to pay a 20% penalty for life. If I go without a drug plan, I should have had it, and 2 years I go without, that's a 24% penalty added to your drug premiums for the rest of your life. And so these are lifetime penalties. Now remember, if you're working, you or your spouse are still working, there will be no penalties that apply. I'm talking about those of you that are not working, and this is one of the reasons that we want to go on Medicare when we lose the group plans is because we'll have these penalties. And then lastly, pre-existing conditions may apply. So there's certain times when insurance companies have to take you. They can ask you no health questions. They can't look at your medications. In other words, they have to take all those pre-existing conditions. But there's a period of time when they will not take you. And so these pre-existing conditions may apply. So you want to come into Medicare at the appropriate time. So who really needs to take Medicare? If you're covered by an employer-provided plan, you may not need to, but if you are not, you absolutely need to take Medicare to avoid all these penalties and all the problems. To learn more, watch the related video or check out our most recent video. Also, be sure you click to subscribe for free and get notified every time we post a new video. To watch our complete Medicare workshop, go to MedicareSchool.com. And finally, when you're ready to compare all your insurance options and get free enrollment help from one of our Medicare School guides, call the number on the screen. See you next time.